Welcome to Seth's Daily Podcast, weekly conservative show here on WKRO Akron's 80s, 90s, and more. And he was actually on the first episode of Seth's Daily Podcast, weekly conservative show here on Akron's 80s, 90s, and more. Russ Kellett, all the way from the UK, UFO hunter, UFO researcher. I mean, this UFO abductee. He's one of my favorite guests to have on the show, man. How are you doing today, man?
Hi, Seth. Not too bad. How are you, brother?
Doing a little bit better. Took a week off because YouTube told me to. Well, YouTube made me take a week off on YouTube.
That's not good. Shall we go around and see them and say, now, stop this nonsense?
Well, they definitely need to stop with the nonsense. But if I talk about that, they'll probably take this down off YouTube. But luckily, if they do, man, it'll still be on here on WKRO Akron's 80s, 90s, and more. YouTube cannot take this show down. So that's a good thing.
That's good. That's good. People will try everything and anything. I've had people ringing in. I've been on talk shows and I've had people ringing in and coming out with lies about me, telling them, oh, don't have him on your show, don't have him on your show, he's done this, he's done that. And I'm thinking, if you really knew the truth, you wouldn't be saying anything, believe me. Because what they make up about me is nothing what I'm really like. You know what I mean? So just carry it on. Children, they just play games. Some people don't seem to grow up. I don't know how it is. But anyway, corporate companies don't seem to either. But what you've got to remember is those corporate companies are owned by people that have got money invested in them, right? Yeah. And a lot of these people are actually people in the governments. You know, it's like in a lot of things, they've all got the money, you know, sort of like in all sorts of projects, making money. That's not what politics are about, by the way. It's about having a vocation in your life to help your people, your working class people, and entrepreneurs as well, to help everybody. You know what I mean? Not just to make money and become millionaires. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on things, you know.
No, you're absolutely right, man. And to the people out here that are trying to call in and stuff, I've not received any calls or texts or anything about people saying, "Hey, don't have Russ on." But all I have to say is, if you text me saying, "Hey, don't have Russ on," I can tell you one thing: that shit's not gonna work. I'm gonna have Russ on, and he's just gonna be on, man. And if you
they did it on Coast to Coast Radio. We had one, us people know him and sort of like they know he's got a problem with me researching about one incident and about getting a book out about it, and sort of like just cannot bear to see me in the news and what have you. He's always got to make up lies and stuff. And you know something, it's sad because over here in this country, we used to have something called care in the community, you know, and it kept people that had some kind of problems, you know, with issues. And we don't have that anymore. So now they're free to run around and cause mayhem all over the place. You know what I mean? Sort of like it's just sad. It's just sad for these people that, you know, sort of like they've got major problems and sort of like they're not getting any help for it. They're not getting any help for it, you know. But anyway, it's just one of those things. If that's how people are, you know, sort of like there's nothing you can do with these people. They'll always be like it. You can't change them. You just got to go, you know what? Some people, you know what I mean? What can you just say? Best thing to say is nothing. Just get on with it. Well, yeah, so, right, let's have a look at things. You see, it's like being in this subject for like 30 years and over, really. It's lifelong. I've come across some very strange things. I used to put in a magazine, I used to put stories in and send photographs and videos to one big magazine in this country. And one day the editor came to my house. Well, he used to come a lot wanting video footage, and I used to submit video footage and stories. And I asked him one day, I said, how comes, I says, my stories are always in, but when it comes down to talking at your big do's, you know, your conferences, you never got me talking. Oh, can't have you talking about stuff what you're talking about, UFOs, landing and aliens with guns and fighting a war against aliens. Oh, no. You can't talk about stuff like that. Oh, no. And I said, well, but if it's happened to me, you know, sort of like, and I'm talking about what's going on, being this super soldier being taken and there's wars. Oh, no. Oh, it don't sell magazines. But wait a minute. If this is the truth, what's happening to me, it don't sell mags. So, you know, you're not willing to put the truth. Oh, it sounds too much like that guy that runs around talking about conspiracies all the time. You know, well, so anyway, the 4 witnesses heard this, and my old man, well, one of them, he came in and he gives it, I would drop him like a hot potato. He says, you're putting all these features in his magazine, he's using it, and video footage, you know, submitting video footage, and you're putting yourself out. He said, but you're not talking at these conferences. He says, drop him. You know what I mean? I've nothing to do with him. Do your own thing. So I did that. So that this is the dilemma, right? Yeah. That people that have been abducted, right, are talking about, sometimes it seems to be love and light and nice little things, fluffy teddy bears and chocolate boxes with nice chocolates inside and all this sort of thing, right? Yeah. Now, in reality, what we're getting is 2 sides of a coin, right? Because I'm remembering I had what you call 100% recall, memory recall. I remembered everything, right? Now, I know what they did to me. I know that they took me and turned me into one of these super soldiers, and it wasn't good. But you just go with the flow. You've got to. That's all you can do, if you see what I mean. So why is it that some people think these are good and some people think that they're bad? Although, if you look at reality of this, what you see is that if you're abducted by anything or anybody, you're taking that person without consent, right? Yeah. Which is basically a lawful act. Unlawful, that is. Lawful for them, but it's, you know, you're not supposed to do this. It's against the law, right? Yeah. So when people say that it's a good, these things are good, you're thinking, but you've been taken without consent, you know, which is against the law, and you think it's good. Now, you've heard of trauma bond. Now, trauma bond is what people get in these relationships, you know, where the unstable relationships and like abusive relationships, but they keep on going back to either the partners or whatever. And it's this trauma bond. And it's something that even though you're getting a beating verbally or, you know, sort of like psychologically, verbally, or physically, you'll keep on going back. Now, also, there's something very similar, which is called, have you heard of the Stockholm Syndrome?
No, what's that?
Well, the Stockholm Syndrome was found when a bank job had gone wrong and they took hostages in this bank. And one of them was a young woman. I think she was an heiress, if I remember rightly. Now, what it is the memory, your mind, sorry, what it does is it tries to find common ground, a common denominator between you and the person, right, that's taken you, right, yeah, keeping you hostage, right, yeah. So it's like, it's the mind's way of finding ways to, sort of like, and the common denominator between you and them, and you're finding things where there's a likeness and you can identify with them and the situation that they might have been put in, right, yeah. Now, so what happens is, and like I say, this is what some, I think it was agents, FBI, and these guys that were looking into, all what goes on in these kind of cases, like using psychology and what have you. So they were trying to figure out how comes that these people that had been taken, they feel close to the people that's abducted them or taken them, held them hostage. And it's something that kicks in, and it's to keep you, it's a fail-safe to keep you alive. So it's your mind's way of keeping you alive, right, yeah? So could this be why some people, right, that have had an abduction take place, happen to them, why that they see this abduction, the unlawful taking of a person, put into these situations, right, where they're going through, you could call it, might be mental torture, and there's all sorts going on. I mean, you're looking at people that have had all sorts of examinations being laid on the table. There's been some people that have been examined. There's people being, like eggs taken, sperm taken. There's people that, some very strange people. There's one guy, every time I used to see him, he used to be talking about, oh, have you been anal probed? No, but by the sounds of things, it sounds like you have. You know what I mean? So you've got all these, I don't know what, I can't remember, sort of like years ago where I read the same thing about this anal probing. Very, very bizarre. Sort of like maybe the aliens didn't have a true understanding of the human anatomy. You know what I mean? So like, it just makes you wonder. So, there's all these traumatic events, take place when people have been abducted, if you see what I mean. So, I mean, that wouldn't that put, sort of like the wind up you, or, would it scare you if you've been abducted, you end up, sort of like on one of these tables being examined, all sorts taken from you. You know what I'm saying? Then there's the other thing, where people like myself have said that they've been taken and put into a military unit and gone through all this, so I mean, a traumatic event. It would seem that they're all traumatic events, but this could be a reason why some people seem to think, oh, well, it wasn't that bad, because like I say, of the Stockholm Syndrome, this thing that kicks in, this fail-safe to keep you alive. I think if I remember rightly, the person that was held hostage, and this is where they look closely at this, actually, when there was freed, they went into a relationship with a person that had actually taken her. Actually, an actual physical relationship, and sort of like, and everything that they believed in, now they're believed in, if you see what I mean. And so when you say the Stockholm, syndrome, this could apply, because apparently it applies in a lot of cases where people have been abducted or held captive. That's one of the reasons, why if if someone's taken, if they've been in like a war and somebody's taken hostage, prisoner, that they'd never usually return to the units, they never go to active service, because they're not sure if they're being held captive somewhere and away from prying eyes, just if anything's gone on up here, whether they've been, brainwashed or whether they've been programmed. Now, the thing is, what we've got to start asking is, could that happen to us? Could we be programmed? Nobody talks about this. You see them on television on these shows, and it's always the same. Nobody ever tells you about technology, about or anything to do with reality. It's almost as if they've read a book and they've got from there to there, and then they get to the back of the book, and then they just recite it as if it's it's happened to them. It's their life. But there's nothing, you know what I mean? There's nothing new. Now, in my book, I'm talking about things like, for instance, when we're taken, we use these systems for travel. And these things come up out of the ground, and on them orbs. Well, you can call them orbs. They look like orbs. In a way, they're like, what the heck do you call them now? Like a crystal ball, what you see into. What, psychics
like a
look into.
misty type thing?
Pardon?
Like a misty type object? Like
Yeah. So we travel, and before we used to travel and his hands would be almost touching these. And we'd go in a line and we'd all be touching these. And that's how we traveled. Right? So, and you're traveling in time. In seconds, you're out. You go through this like gateway, portal. And then you land. You're wherever you've been sent to, whatever, if it was on a mission, and then you'd be at the other side. These things would just disappear. Then they'd go into a special backpack, what we had, one at each side later on. But it was as if technology had progressed. So on the suits, we've got 2 dials, right, yeah, for the suits. The bottom one is if we want to disappear, if we're in action and we need to disappear, what we do is we just touch this on it's near his chest in the middle, touch it and keep his hand in, and then we'll disappear, and you can walk through walls, you can walk through solid objects, matter. And then when you come out the other side, you let go. Or if you've got big problems and you've got your rifles with you and everything, there's a dial. You turn the dial for, seconds, right? And you turn that dial, say for 10 seconds, 30 at the top, move it round and press it in. That gives you 30 seconds, so you can maneuver, you can move, you can go through buildings and get away from the enemy, right? When that dial comes down, you've got to be away from any solid matter. So that means if you're walking through, a wall or metal structure or whatever, you've got to, before that goes back down, when you appear again, if you appear and you're halfway through a building, a wall, you're stuck there. That's you dead, right? Yeah. But whilst you're doing this, you can walk around and you look like a shadow person.
Now, what exactly is a shadow person? Because some people say that they're like entities, like paranormal entities or demons.
Well, that's us. This is what I'm explaining. You can hear all nonsense. I'm telling you now. This is how we travel. We travel with these balls, which are like crystal balls. We travel the communication, these are like communication, like objects that go back, and then they take us back. They all, you know, they basically tell HQ, our base, where we are, and everything. So there's that aspect of things. You know, this is how we disappear, right? Yeah. This is how we travel, and this is how we disappear. Honours uniform, tap it, either hold it in or, you know, turn the dial, gives us like a minute or 30 seconds, whatever you want to set it at. So this is, like I say, how we disappear. It's a form of teleportation. The actual orbs, these crystal balls, they're a form of teleportation also. So they're teleporting us. But this secondary part is, like I say, where you can go through walls. It's a get out of, you know, problems easy. And so what you've got to remember, there's bases honeycombed over the world, everywhere. So it's no wonder sometimes people come up against shadow people, because there'll be this thing. There's a war going on this planet around the world. There's never ever not been a war since man made the first axe and attacked his neighbor. You know, there's always been a war somewhere around the world. Usually there's one or two countries that are involved. I won't say which ones, but usually they cannot keep the nose out of wars. They just love to go stirring up trouble. I'd say to the guys there that are wanting to do this, you go, because it's not for me. You know what I mean? That's a problem, you know. Anyway, so that's a little bit about how we travel, the technology there, with the suits, the weapons that we have are sound weapons. There used to be fully sound weapons, and then we had to use laser cannons because we were coming up against these massive creatures, which were Dragos or dragons. And they are not good.
Yeah, dude. Speaking of that, I read something in some article where, like some thousands years ago, they have found proof of dragons actually existing. So I mean, they're admitting a little bit time by time that they're admitting that UFOs are real now. The U.S. government is, so time by time they're finally admitting some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is we keep on getting the Pentagon saying, you know, we're showing you this, you know, sort of like, you know, like the Tic Tac, you know, sort of like that was 2006. I know somebody who's been filming stuff last year. You know what I mean? Over their house. And it's a Tic Tac. You know, sort of like I filmed, you know, flying men. I filmed me getting zapped. When I'm filming a UFO, I get zapped by 5 objects coming at me. And I get this power going up and down and up me, sort of like, wow. I filmed flying triangles coming out of the bay where I live here. 2 flying triangles come out of the sea and take off. You know, sort of like, why isn't this, you know, sort of like in the news? I'll tell you why. Because there's people, one person, I filmed something amazing. My friend had a better camera than me, and what does he do? He gets his binoculars, and it came right overhead, and then it came down, and then it seemed to land. And I filmed it, and a certain person right here seemed to be going round and telling people. I only found out a couple of years later that he'd been going around and telling people it were an hang glider. I'm thinking, an hang glider? We've seen it fly overhead. I went As it flew overhead, I went into the car, got my video camera out. I shouted over to my friend Tony, who's passed away now. Look at that. And I'm looking, I've got my binocs on it. You've got your binocs, I'm filming it. Now, the next day when I went, I took some video footage and I took some photographs. And there's a flying triangle where this thing had landed in the sky. It's a terrible picture, though. It's really, you know, sort of like, I don't know what happened to it. But you can see a flying triangle. So anyway, you know, what we're hearing from people that are seeing Bigfoot is that a lot of the times there's these balls that seem to be around them, two balls. Now, don't you think that's funny? They're talking about two balls, very similar to the crystal balls, how we travel, and they've got them. And then all of a sudden, these things seem to disappear. And what they say is they seem to go like a shadow and then disappear. Is that just a coincidence?
Nope.
No, well, it's funnily enough, that's what me and a few other people have come to think. You know, that also I was on the radio some years ago, must have been over 10 years ago, about 15 years ago, talking about people that are going missing in this country. 15 years ago, there was something like 280,000 people went missing.
Wow.
So where are these people? Now, I know that when we went and we breached this base on this planet, and there were people that had been abducted and there were prisoners, and we set them free.
Wow.
So, you know, are people, obviously, I'm saying are, I'm not saying they are, I'm telling you that they are. People have been abducted, not only by one side, by a number of sides. You know, there's a number of sides. Not everybody who are super soldiers have been in what you would call a military unit in countries like America, England, regular soldiers. Some are not regular soldiers. Some are just being taken. And like the saying goes, you do not take somebody who's already a soldier to have to try to undo what's been put there to put something else there. You get a fresh mind and we train them how we want them. You know, sometimes I might get somebody who's already been trained, but it's not, you know, it's like a grey area in some people's minds because they can't seem to understand that, you know, super soldiers are just not your regular troops from different countries around the world. But there's more than one alien race that are taking these people. You know, like I said some time ago, you know, there was an incident where we'd had to lift somebody from an area over a border, and there were people looking over and saying, "What are you doing here?" You know, and we were having to take somebody because of a conflict going on. Right? Not far off what's going on now, if you remember. I think I told you about this before it happened. There is a war going on all around the world. If they find new technology and they've got bases, the Americans will try to definitely go and get these bases. The English, you know, sort of like waste of time, they do as they're told. But some of the European countries and Russia, they'll go out looking as well. You know, it's a case of, and they're looking for new technology, they're looking for bases, they're looking to see in some of these bases what new technology there is. You know, so it's a case of a lot of the problem is that you know, when you hear from the media and they say that the Pentagon's releasing this, the Pentagon's releasing that, a lot of the time they're only releasing this, and it's, let's be honest about it, very poor quality video. Could be in a flight simulator. The Tic Tac could be in a flight simulator. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, could be programmed to go past them. You're not seeing anything, you know. As people say to me, oh, Russ, it's pretty grainy, is your stuff, isn't it? Well, it's better than that shit. You know what I mean? It's better than that shit, what they're sort of like chucking out. Pardon my French. You know what I'm saying? So how does that work? You believe in stuff from the government, but real good stuff, you're saying it's grainy. You know what I mean? How does that work? You know, people are sheeple, aren't they? You know, they'll believe in what the government tells them, and that's the problem. I never, if somebody, a G-man tells me something, you know what, I'd do the opposite. They tell you to do something, I'd do the opposite. They tell you something, I think to myself, yeah, like I'm going to believe you. Never trust them. Sorry, but that's just my way
you're
of
right, man. You're definitely right. And to the people out there that said Russ is just making this up, there is something that has just blew my mind, man. And this tells everyone that this is 100% true. There was a
I've got videos
doctor.
of it. I've
Yeah,
got video. You can see me getting zapped by
exactly.
5 balls of light. I've
Yeah,
videoed flying, what they call a flying man coming down. It was actually some very strange triangle. Flew overhead. We both saw it. I filmed it. Flying triangles, 2 side by side coming out. The thing is, they can't get away from the fact it's there. You know, sort of like, this is a real deal. You know what I mean? Super soldier. I was talking about this in 1997,
before
98.
I was even born.
Well, this is it, you know, sort of like, it's, I'm feeling old now. But, you know, the thing is, what I've said, I've got drawings from back then that I used to show people in a circular room with these like, these poles coming out of the ground, and on top there's one ball there, crystal balls, and in that there's like these, they look like Knights Templars. That were really strange. But it's in my book. In E.T.
Exactly.
Rider, explain about how I was taken. My unit had been overrun. They legged it, left me, and I was taken prisoner.
Yeah, I definitely
So
believe you, man, for sure. I definitely what just gets me is the doctor writing down he's a UFO hunter, UFO researcher. That's what gets me. That's what I was gonna say. That's, I mean, how
it's
can
in the
you?
book.
I
It's in
know
the book.
that's crazy, man. That
Not
guy.
only that, but the thing is, right, yeah, I had my mind wiped. I was rushed to hospital. They thought I had hepatitis. There were 5 things that they said I could have had, and they weren't giving me much chance of coming out of that hospital. Right, yeah. They said to me, mum and dad, you know, like, it's not good. And I went in 3 days and I came round, but my memory had gone. You know what I mean? I remember my girlfriend at the time, you know, like, oh, yeah, I don't know who you are. I fancied a mate better, so I pretended I was going. When my memory came back, well, no, I remember her. I'm going out with her. You know, that didn't go down well. but no, seriously, you know, it had gone. You know, a lot of, there were things that had been taken out, like where we were from, the planet, where the actual aliens had took me, where they lived. I know something. They're looking for something, and they're looking for somebody. You know, and their enemies, their foes. There's many of them, but there's a battle going on out there, and basically it's overspilled onto this planet. And if there's any wars anywhere, you can guarantee it's either something to do with alien technology, right? Yeah, or underground bases or something, some kind of element that they're looking for to make a better weapon or a better space vehicle or dimensional vehicle, because it's gone beyond time travel now. They're looking for the other thing. It's like people say, is it in your DNA? It's not in his DNA. Why the techers? It's something else, but you can't see it. It's something else. You can't see it. It's there, but it's a case of it's not visible as such. But as soon as I find out, you'll know about it, But we're going from time travel. That's all that time travel. We've gone beyond that to the next level, and that's a frightening things, because the next level, if you think aliens are scary, when you go to the next level, believe me, you know what I mean? It's like you just would not believe it. I'm always sick when I travel. Right, yeah. When I travel through the teleportation system and the time travel system, I'm always sick. Seriously, I'm always sick. And I've got ME. I came ill after with this myalgia and encephalitis. Some people call it fibromyalgia. There's all sorts of names. Burnout. That's something. I think I am burnt out. But it's with what we've seen and what we've gone through. Nobody's talking about it. I get people jeering and saying, no, it's rubbish. But I was the first person to talk about this. But anyway, so there's a short version of what's been going on. A very short version.
Now, do you is there any like good aliens out there, or are all of them bad?
In the words of John Wayne, the only good aliens. No. Let's put it this way. I'm sure, like anything else there is, it's like, are there any good humans? Finding one would be an hard thing to do. You know what I mean? Sort of like, do they look good? Like every time something happens somewhere, there's a call for war. You know what I mean? Oh, God, no. Sorry, I didn't mean that. What I mean is that it's like it's into each person's interpretation. Yeah, there's good in everybody and everything. But when you've been taken and unfortunately you're put in this scenario and you're made to fight, and you know what I mean, it's like all I can say is that when I'm there, I want to be home, and when I'm home, I want to be back there. So I suppose they are good, but again, is that the Stockholm Syndrome, where you become as one with the people that have taken you? This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of questions, and people are going to have to start actually asking questions instead of saying, "Oh, well, this is how it is." I know because they're all nice, like chocolate bunnies and sweeties, and fluffy candy and love and light. It's a case of you're just being grabbed, taken away, screaming and kicking. You know what I mean? And you think it's love and light. Well, that ain't my idea. Could it be these syndromes and, sort of like these like trauma bonds that are keeping us bonded together, when really we should be saying we want out of here, and it's not good,
Definitely, man. And so you have a book that people are not wanting you to put out. Is that correct?
Oh, they don't want me to be out. There's E.T. Rider on Amazon, and there's the new one, which is Alien Invasion Wales on Amazon. It's about a crash. It's more than one crash. It's about crashed vehicles, flying saucers in North Wales, around the Berwyn Mountains. And I get people wanting to do, documentaries, and you know what? It's so lame. Some of these people, sort of like contact you. They all want to be Spielberg and what have you. They all think that they're gonna, and sort of like, I just can't be bothered anymore. The book's there, read the book. It tells you about a conspiracy. It shows you that in the paperwork from the police, there's a big problem with what they're saying and what actually happened. Massive problem. It's like when somebody rings up to tell about what's happened, 6 minutes before it takes place. How does that work? They're notifying the police before it's happened. It's like, wow, time travel does exist. This guy must have been there and back and seen it and reported it 6 minutes before it happened. There's so many things, but the thing is, there's people that are very, very scared. It's a very insular place, very enclosed. There's like villages all around and towns. There's not many cities. It's very rural. And the thing is, everybody knows everybody, and the sheep, sort of like, and the dogs, and you know what I mean? And the problem is, and this is the big, big problem, that something happened so bad on that night and people will not come forward. People don't want to talk about it because I've been told a lot more actually went on that night than what's even been put in the book. And there's another book coming out shortly.
That's the one they don't want you to put out, ain't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm going to be talking about the Majestic 12 because this comes into it. It is unbelievable what I found out now, and all the paperwork, all the actual, all the maps of what happened and on the days, and everything's there. And the thing is, it's very scary. I'll be honest with you, it's very scary because I know the research what I've done is pretty damn good, and I've had somebody looking over my shoulder, making sure that I'm doing a good job researching. And the thing is, if this is true, which we're going back to these documents and the maps, which have got Majestic 12 on them, and GB and Majestic 12, it's like, this is long before people were talking about Majestic 12. In ufology, in reality, there's only some very, very, there's a very small number of people that even were talking about Majestic 12. Back then, it wasn't common. It wasn't commonly known. So the thing is, what is going on? Just what is going on? And it is very scary because, there's Majestic 12, and I'm looking now at people who were actually going round and interviewing witnesses, and they were threatening them. Threats from Men in Black. So now we've got Men in Black coming into the scenario. This is scary. Very scary.
Yeah, man. I've always been interested in the Man in Black, especially in have you heard of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the Mothman and all
Mothman prophecies, flipping heck. When I think of that film, I'm not joking. I get a shiver. I get a shiver down my spine when I just watch that film, or it takes me back. There's something very strange going on there.
Definitely.
It don't just happen once. It's like these guys that told me this landed here, and the thing is, they'd been around, they'd met the aliens. They met the aliens on more than one occasion, right? And what they said is, this area is as active today, Mr. Kellett,
I've
as
been
it was
there.
then. Have you?
Yes, man.
And
The
what did you
energy,
think?
just going there to the museum and stuff where the artifacts of like there's like they have some artifacts from like when the bridge fell and stuff, and they got the Mothman statue and everything. Just the energy you get from that town is just it's a beautiful town. There was also some Native American wars that happened there and stuff, and Native Americans put curses on the town and all that. And it's just the energy you can feel in that town is like unlike unrested or something like that. Something is going on there for sure. It's uneasy kind of the energy.
Well, it's funny you should say that. The village what we went to, where the flying saucer, one of the flying saucers landed and were taken away by the military on a flatbed vehicle, right? Yeah, very, very odd, that area. The old villages, it's like Village of the Damned. Seriously, you're driving around and it's like everybody's looking at you, thinking,
The people was very nice there. It's just you could feel like something kind of like I don't
there's
know,
an
like
undercurrent.
kind of paranormal, kind of as
Yeah, you get this. This is exactly like these two villages in North Wales, And like I say, the warning was be careful as you go, because not all is what it seems to be. And this place is as active today as it was then. And sort of like, ooh, that was sort of like enough of a warning. But like I say, it seems that these men must have been investigating. There's something about these men investigating and putting the frighteners up people.
yeah.
What for? I don't know.
You actually want to know something pretty cool? I interviewed a guy that makes the Mothman costumes for the museum and stuff, and he has an original letter from two Mothman witnesses writing back the original copy from like the
Yeah,
60s of them writing back and forth together, talking about the man in black coming to their houses and stuff.
really. Wow, that is unbelievable. Wow, Seth, that is. Yeah.
Definitely a very cool interview, man. It was 100% talking about Mothman and all that stuff, man. And I definitely
Send us a link, please. I
absolutely
want to. I want to watch that.
I definitely believe that the people that when that bridge collapsed, I believe they seen something.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely something. That people don't just come out with all this stuff. There's always some people do. Don't get me wrong. Sort of like, oh,
Like Bigfoot, Mothman, and aliens went to McDonald's and went through the drive-through and ordered a Big Mac.
I was there when it happened. I was sat down. I'm thinking, well, that doesn't happen every day, does it?
Uh, yeah, man, but there's definitely something going on in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I mean, that town just seems uneasy and stuff, like the energy there. I don't know if it's like the spirits from that died when the bridge collapsed or whatever, but something is it feels like they're unrested or something.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about Native Americans, like putting
Yeah.
curses, it reminds me of Skinwalker Ranch. The same thing, isn't it? Like the curse on that tribe from the other tribe, saying that you sided with them, and you know.
Yeah. I've actually
But
had a Native American on before. We've talked about he's a Bigfoot researcher and stuff,
yeah,
Nighthawk. Yeah, we've talked about Native Americans, like their relationship with Bigfoot and stuff. I have
yeah,
native blood in me as well. I'm
yeah,
Cherokee a little bit, so
yeah. That reminds me of the guys. The monster hunters.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
what do you call them?
Oh, what is their name? They do they have a show on Discovery Plus? I think.
Yeah, of course I do. There's Buck. There's Buck. And Bill. Is it Billy? Yeah. I used to watch that a lot. I hadn't seen it on for the past couple of years, I don't think.
Is it Monster Quest?
It's something like that, isn't it? Monster Hunters or something. And Trapper died, didn't he? The leader died.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. What it Trapper or Hunter? They called him. He passed away. Yeah, it's sort of like really sad. But there were all sorts of paranormal going on, weren't there? And people watching them and chasing after them and taking this Bigfoot. And then there were, like got all these dossiers and files on them. And they said, how did they know about that? Sort of like, and people say, no, it's all made up. It's all been made up now, this. But it was a good show. Kept me entertained.
Definitely, brother. Well, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on, man. It's been another fun interview with you, and you definitely will be back on for sure. And you always, anytime you want to be on, you already know you can be on,
Well,
man.
thank you. Thank you,
Absolutely,
Seth.
man.
Always a pleasure to be on the show. It's always great and nice to see you. And I'm glad that you're feeling better. And love and blessings to your family.
Thank
and
you,
yourself.
man. God bless your family as well, and God bless you, man. And
Thank you.
this has been Seth's Daily Podcast, weekly conservative show here on WKRO Akron's 80s, 90s, and more. I want to thank Russ Kellett for being on. Y'all have a good night, and God